Things such as microscopes and glasswork, geography, astronomy, cosmology, mathematics, metallurgy, large-scale construction, construction techniques, social organization and engineering, mechanical devices, everyday items, clothing, art, medicine, flight, space travel, ancient science, civilization, electricity, weaponry. I just concluded weaponry because the nuclear option is now on the table. And we're talking almost daily about, in the news, daily, about Iran obtaining nuclear weapons, and President Bush says we'll never allow that to happen. Iran is now aligned with Russia and China, who have nuclear weapons. It's a Muslim country. Pakistan is a Muslim country. They have nuclear weapons. There's a big fight brewing between the Muslims and the Jews. And the Battle of Armageddon is scheduled in the Valley of Megiddo, 35 miles northwest of Jerusalem. All of the elements are in place. Now, in conclusion, let me take a look here at 92 records of astronomy worldwide, such as the round Earth, the Earth's diameter, and the Earth's orbit, which were all known and all recorded by ancient civilizations for us today. Think of this. As I first researched this, Earth's unmanned spacecraft Voyager 2 was hurtling beyond Uranus toward the planet Neptune for a rendezvous in 1989. On August 24th that year, yes, the exact day was known. August 24th, 1989. It was calculated to swing around past Neptune and then head off out into the solar system forever, into unknown deep space. Now, was it as recently as the 19th century, just 200 years ago, that most people thought the Earth that we live on was flat, that it was the center of the universe, surrounded by a distant vault of fixed stars, and that the planets and the sun moved around us? You know, that's right. The Earth cannot be a ball, said one prominent scientist of the time. Otherwise, the people on the lower half would fall off into the void. Even the great Kepler, not so much earlier, had said that there were only 1,005 stars. So long did ignorance prevail that we assume that ignorance has always been the norm. Now enjoy a taste of a great surprise. Contrary to history as we know it, as we learned it in college and high school, in that remote period that we call prehistory, there existed an embarrassing wealth of astronomical knowledge. And may I suggest that the more that one looks into it, the more you will feel that a race of scientific giants has preceded us. Now, that conclusion is unavoidable, that the astronomers of Babylon, India, and Egypt either possessed sophisticated instruments themselves, such as telescopes, or they were the custodians of a prehistoric science that came from a mother civilization and was passed down to them. Even later, among the classical Greeks, the Romans, there were sages who still had access to a body of knowledge extending back into the dim past. The nations with particular knowledge, cited below, were not alone in possessing this knowledge. This science must have been universal at first, but remember, the surviving evidence is fragmentary. So let's take a look at the Earth itself. In Egypt, China, England, Guatemala, Bolivia, Greece, India, Samaria, Babylon, Assyria, the Hittites, Asia Minor, and from the Bible, all reveal that the Earth is round, that the Earth is a sphere surrounded by the heavens. The Sumerians, for example, identified, named, and grouped the constellations of both the northern and the southern hemisphere to the South Pole. For example, the complete skies of a global, not a flat Earth. Egypt's pyramid builders could project maps from spherical to flat surfaces, which shows that they knew that the Earth was round. And they calculated the shape and the size of the Earth far more accurately than anybody before the mid-19th century. Now, in China and Greece, the Earth is slightly egg or pear-shaped, and modern science agrees. Our distorted sphere is a little bit pear-shaped, with a bulge in the southern hemisphere, and that was known in China and Greece. Now, in India, China, Greece, Rome, and from the Bible, we learn that the earth floats in space. From Egypt, Greece, China, India, and the Bible, we learn that the earth spins on its axis in 24 hours. The circuit of the earth, that is, the earth in its courses, the seeming rotation of the stars is due to the earth's revolving on its axis, was well known in Greece as far back as 2000 BC. And it was recorded on Khonsu papyrus in Egypt in 1000 BC. Now in Babylon, Egypt, India, and Greece, they all knew that the earth revolves around the sun. That wasn't discovered until Galileo had his famous run-in with the Pope, remember? In Greece, the orbit of the earth is elliptical, that is, oval-shaped. The earth revolves in an oblique circle, while it rotates at the same time about its own axis. Then, in Egypt, India, Guatemala, Chaldea, England, and Greece, the size of the earth was known. A circumference difference from our modern calculation of only 225 miles was recorded in Egypt. The diameter was computed to be 7,840 miles compared to our calculation of 7,926.7 miles. In Guatemala, the weight of the earth had been calculated. In Babylon and Egypt, the exact length of the year, with the Earth's solar year of 365.2420 days. In Guatemala, whereas we know it to be 365.2422 days. The annual movement of the sun and moon, determined to an error of less than 9 seconds of an arc, was calculated and recorded in Babylon. The exact length of the solar year, the sidereal year, and the anomalistic year seems likely to have been clearly understood in Egypt. In Greece, as early as 2000 BC, the seasons are caused by the Earth's rotation around the sun along the ecliptic. In Greece, an awareness of the torrid temperature and the frigid zones existing on our planet was well known. Now let's take a look at the moon. In India, the distance to the moon was calculated at 253,000 miles. By comparison, we calculate the maximum distance to the moon to be 252,710 miles. In Greece, Chaldea, India, and China, the moon's light is reflected. The moon illuminates the nights with borrowed light. In Greece, it was known that the moon circles around the earth. In England and the Arab countries, the path of the moon is an ellipse, varying closer or farther from the earth. In England and the Arabs, the variation exists in the moon's motion and irregularity caused by the differences in the sun's pull at various points of the moon's orbit. This was discovered only by precision instruments in the 17th century. Mexico has records of the length of the moon's cycle calculated accurately to within 4 10,000ths of a day. And during the lunar month, the duration of the lunar month is 29.53020 days according to the Köppen Maya, or 29.53086 days according to the Palenque Maya. Actually, we calculate it today as 29.53059 days. In Greece, ellipses, solar ellipses. It is the moon that darkens the sun. In Greece and Chaldea, lunar eclipses. It is the Earth's shadow that falls on the moon. In Babylon and England, accurate forecasting of eclipses to fractions of a second of an arc were recorded. And the present methods of calculation established in 1857 included an error of 7/10 of a second of an arc in estimating the movement of the sun. Babylon's calculation was 2/10 of a second nearer to the truth. The maximum amplitude of the moon's wobble, which occurs immediately before the seasons of lunar eclipses, was observed in England as early as 2000 BC and clearly recorded. Now, to predict an eclipse, however, 3 checkpoints at 120 degrees longitude distance from each other must first be established, and information communicated from each of them. In England, in 2000 BC, there is a 56-year cycle to moon eclipse patterns. In Babylon, China, Greece, and Rome, the moon exerts an attraction on Earth's tides. Only 300 years ago, Kepler was criticized for making this same conclusion. In Greece, the moon has a 2-week-long, 15 times longer than ours. That is, the moon has a 2-week-long day, which is 15 times longer than ours. That was known in Greece. In China, 1700 BC, the lunar month has a precise length of 29.5305106 days. Our modern calendars are only 8/100,000ths more accurate.